A new analysis of Japan's startup ecosystem landed this week with a line every foreign executive running a business here should read twice. Japan is no longer a side market, and founders who treat it like one, parachuting in with a global playbook, expecting Japan to conform to their model. Burn time fast. That is not a new observation, but it is a more urgent one than it used to be, because what is happening in Japan's startup ecosystem right now is not a fluke. It is a signal. And if you are a foreign executive leading an established business here, you should be paying close attention to what the founders getting it right are actually doing. Because they have figured out something that many large foreign companies still have not. They are competing on their own terms. Japan has always punished the copy-paste approach. Not because Japan is inscrutable or uniquely resistant to change, that is the Galapagos myth, and I have spent the better part of my career disproving it, but because Japan is a market with extraordinarily high standards. Customers here know the difference between a product that was designed for them and one that was adapted for them as an afterthought. They feel it immediately, and they reward the former with a loyalty that is almost unmatched anywhere in the world. Let me give you two founders who understood this before most established foreign companies did. Yuji Okamura founded Takami, a skincare company, at a time when the conventional wisdom in the industry was absolute. You sell through department stores and wholesalers, or you do not sell at all. Okamura did neither. He built a direct-to-consumer subscription model online, a distribution approach that incumbents with far more resources could have pursued, but did not, because they had too much to lose from disrupting their own channel relationships. Takami later established its own skincare clinics, entirely independent of department stores. The company grew revenues to over $60 million by 2019, and continued growing through the COVID-19 pandemic while established competitors posted losses. The lesson is not simply that direct-to-consumer works. The lesson is that Okamura defined the terrain of competition on his own terms. He did not ask permission from the distribution establishment. He did not wait for the industry to validate his model. He built what he believed the future looked like and let the results speak. Dr. Tomohiro So-no, founder of TXP Medical, did the same thing, in a far more complex arena. TXP Medical builds AI-powered emergency medicine data infrastructure, connecting clinical data across hospitals in ways that Japan's fragmented paper-heavy healthcare system had never managed to do. So-no is an emergency physician himself. He understood the problem from the inside. He did not adapt a global health IT solution for Japan. He built something Japan-specific from the ground up, rooted in the actual workflows of Japanese emergency departments, the actual constraints of Japanese hospital ET, and the actual relationships that determine how clinical data moves or fails to move in this country. Both founders made the same strategic choice. They refused to compete on terrain that established players had already defined. They created new terrain and then competed on it. Stop analyzing the competition. Stop asking what the global standard is and how Japan compares. Define the market based on your strengths and compete on your own terms. Force your competitors to constantly be analyzing you. Now, here is the mistake I see most often among foreign executives who are underperforming in Japan. They keep relitigating the wrong question. The question of whether Japan requires a different approach has already been answered. It does. That is settled. The question worth spending time on is how. How to build trust methodically. How to navigate a buying process where relationships precede transactions. How to identify and remove the refraction layers inside your own organization that are blocking change from reaching the people who need to execute it. Yet I regularly see executive teams stuck in a loop. The Japan head argues the market needs a localized approach. The global team pushes back and wants consistency. Nothing moves. Meanwhile, a nimbler competitor, often a startup with no legacy to protect, steps into the gap and takes the account. Okamura never had that loop. Neither did So-no. They had no global head office to convince, no standardization mandate to fight, no installed base, creating gravitational drag. They went straight to the how. That forced clarity is their structural advantage. There is a related failure mode, and it costs even more. Waiting for buy-in before acting. Wholesalers and department stores were never going to endorse Takami's direct-to-consumer model. It cut them out of the equation entirely. Okamura did not need them to. He acted. Results followed. Buy-in, from investors, from the market, eventually from the industry, came afterward. TXP Medical faced the same dynamic. Hospital administrators and IT departments in Japan are not quick adopters. The procurement cycle in Japanese healthcare is long, relationship dependent, and conservative. Sono did not wait for the system to become receptive. He built the infrastructure that made the case undeniable, hospital by hospital, department by department, until the data on patient outcomes made the argument for him. Doing things in a new way, even as an experiment, and finding out it works, is far more persuasive than any amount of internal communication, roadshows, or off-site sessions. Nothing achieves buy-in like real success. One more thing worth flagging. Japan currently has an estimated 1.3 million unfilled technology positions. AI engineering, software development, cybersecurity, robotics, data science. The shortage is structural and it is not going away. TXP Medical is navigating this directly. Emergency medicine in Japan is chronically understaffed. The value proposition of AI-powered clinical data infrastructure is not just efficiency. It is the ability to do more with the medical professionals already in the system, at a time when adding headcount is simply not a realistic option for most hospitals. Sono built for the constraint, not against it. That is strategy on your own terms applied to a resource constraint. And it is the difference between a company that waits for conditions to improve and one that builds the future it wants, despite the conditions that exist. The maturation of Japan's startup ecosystem is a message to every established foreign company operating here. The excuse that Japan is too unique, too consensus-driven, too risk-averse, too slow. That excuse is becoming harder to sustain. Because founders like Okamura and Sono, with no institutional advantages, no inherited distribution network, no global brand behind them, built defensible businesses here. From scratch, by taking Japan seriously and competing on their own terms. If they can do it, you can do it. You have more resources, more brand equity, more existing customer relationships, and more organizational depth than either of them had at the start. What you may not have, and what they did have, is the clarity of purpose that comes from having no alternative. You do have an alternative. The question is whether you are using it as an asset or as an excuse. Bold strategy in Japan does not mean ignoring Japan. It means understanding Japan deeply enough to compete in a way that no one else can replicate. It means making Japan the crucible, the market where your approach is stress tested to the highest standard in the world, and where success proves it can work anywhere. Japan is not a side market. Japan is a competitive advantage. Are you building your competitive advantage accordingly? I'm Stephen Blystein. Thanks for watching. If this kind of thinking resonates with you, strategy, leadership, and what it really takes to grow a business in Japan, please subscribe to my channel. I publish new content every week, and I would love to have you in the conversation.